What other ones did you commit with other mature?
I referenced 2, and I said the other incident happened in the vehicle.
Can you tell me about the other incident?
I believe the only thing that happened in the vehicle was that I touched her breast and we kissed.
Do you recall when that was?
I'd be speculating, but I'd say it's approximately maybe a month before we had intercourse.
Any other incidents in which you committed sexual acts with Heather Mature?
To the best of my knowledge, those are the only 3 incidents that I can recall.
Is there anyone else other than Nancy that you were romantically involved with during your marriage?
No.
Have you seen any psychologists or psychiatrists since Nancy died?
Yes, I've seen Joseph Tooley.
Who is Joseph Tooley?
He's a psychologist, I believe.
How do you spell the last name?
Tooley.
Where is his practice?
His practice is on the corner of Tryon and Kildare Farm Road.
And Cary?
I'm sorry, he's in the corner of Cary Parkway and Kildare Farm Road.
Is he a psychologist?
I'm not too sure. I supplied his business card to you guys, so we can look it up there.
How many sessions have you had with Joseph Tooley?
I believe it's been about 8 sessions now, maybe 7.
During what period of time?
From approximately near the end of July to present.
And what was the purpose of the sessions?
Objection, but privilege, but you go ahead and answer it.
The purpose was to talk about, to help me cope with the grief of losing Nancy, of losing the children.
Are you still seeing, do you know if he's a doctor or not?
As far as I understand, he is a doctor, yes.
Are you still seeing Dr. Tooley?
Yes.
How often do you see him?
Initially, it was once a week, and it's currently approximately every 2 weeks now.
Will you continue to see him?
As long as I'm gaining value, I don't see why I would discontinue seeing him.
Have you considered taking medication?
I've never felt the need to take it, and I've never been recommended to take it.
Do you know if Dr. Tooley is able to prescribe medication?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Other than Dr. Tooley, Dr. Arthur, your allergist, and whoever you may have seen at the emergency room or the walk-in clinics, in the past 8 years, have you seen any other physicians, psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors?
Alice, are you asking that from a treatment perspective? You're not including Dr. Gould, or are you including Dr. Gould in that list?
Well, sure, go ahead and include Dr. Gould if you want to, but I want to know every doctor that he's seen.
For treatment purposes, is that what you're saying?
For treatment purposes for the present.
Okay.
Okay, so other than friends and family, to the best of my knowledge, those are the only doctors I've ever met. Medically, to the best of my knowledge, it's been 8 years since I've been in the States. There could have been another doctor, medical doctor I've seen, but from a psychologist, psychiatrist point of view, the only people I've ever seen is Maria Arthur and Dr. Tooley and Dr. Gould for an evaluation.
Are you healthy?
Yes.
Do you know if Nancy saw any psychologists or psychiatrists during the 8 years that you lived with her in Cary?
Other than Dr. Arthur, I'm not aware of any other doctors she may have seen.
Are you aware of whether or not she had an OBGYN?
Yes, Dr. Brandon.
Dr. who?
Dr. Brandon.
Brandon?
Yes, I believe so.
Do you know what practice Dr. Brandon is with?
He's got a practice just with an office building just off of Cary Parkway. I've accompanied Nancy there a handful of times.
When did you accompany Nancy to that practice?
During most of the sonogram sessions, during the times that during some of the times she had miscarriages.
When did Nancy have miscarriages?
She had miscarriages prior to the birth of Bella.
How many?
I would say approximately about 5.
During what period of time?
Prior to the birth of Bella.
What's Bella's date of birth?
Bella's date of birth is February 23rd, 2004.
What's your date of marriage?
October 13th, 1999.
Do you know when Nancy had the first miscarriage?
The exact date? I couldn't tell you the exact date now.
Can you give me a time frame?
Between 4 and 5 years ago. Well, actually, it'd probably be it'd have to be more than 5 years ago. Bella was conceived, Bella's 4 and a half, Bella was conceived, 11 months, 10 months before that, so therefore it had to be 5 years ago or more, actually.
Over what period of time did your wife had 5 miscarriages?
I'd say it was approximately about a year's time frame.
How many? I'm sorry, 1 year's time frame?
Approximately. It's been more than 5 years, but yes.
Were you aware at the time she had the first miscarriage?
Was I aware at the time? Can you clarify that question?
When did you learn that she had her first miscarriage?
When she called me on the telephone.
Where were you when she called you?
To the best of my knowledge, I was at work at the time.
How far along was she in her pregnancy?
All of her miscarriages were between 1 and 2.5 months, less than 3 months.
No, I'm referring to the first one. What did you do when you received the call?
To the best of my knowledge, I came home.
You don't recall?
Again, you're asking me what happened more than 5 years ago. And so to the best of my knowledge, I came home.
Would that have been the first child that you would have ever conceived, or do you have other children?
That I do not have any other children.
And do you recall learning that the first child you'd ever conceived had miscarried? Do you recall?
She shouldn't ask and answer.
You don't recall what you did when you learned that?
Nancy was upset. And to the best of my knowledge, she asked me to come home, and to the best of my knowledge, I came home.
Did she have to go to the hospital?
To the best of my knowledge, we made an appointment with Dr. Brandon, and that's where we went either that day or the following day.
Did you take her to that appointment?
Again, to the best of my knowledge, yes. I remember taking her a handful of times to Dr. Brandon and sitting in the waiting room while she was upset.
Were you ever present during any of the 5 miscarriages?
In the home?
Or wherever they may have occurred?
For at least one, I was at home. Remember, Nancy came out of the bathroom telling me that she had a heavy period and she thought she had a miscarriage.
Do you recall when that was?
I do not recall.
Was that, do you know if it was after the first miscarriage? Would it have been the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th? Do you know which one it was?
I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you which one it was.
What did you do when you learned that she had had the miscarriage?
To the best of my knowledge, I asked her, what would you like to do? What can we do? And I'd be guessing, but to the best of my knowledge, we probably called Dr. Brandon's office and made an appointment at the earliest time to see him or another doctor at the practice.
Did you ever accompany Nancy to the hospital on any of the miscarriages?
I don't remember. I've been to the hospital with Nancy numerous times. and I don't remember if one of them was for a miscarriage. I know we've been to Dr. Brandon's office numerous times to do follow-up visits after the miscarriages.
Did you actually go in with Nancy and see Dr. Brandon?
Yes, but not regarding the miscarriages.
When you went for the miscarriages, what did you do?
Nancy asked me to wait in the waiting room, hold on to her purse while she went in with the staff.
And how many times would that have been?
I can think of at least 2, possibly 3 times.
Is this all prior to Bella's birth?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
You said you've been with Nancy to the hospital on numerous occasions. Tell me about those occasions.
I'm going to object. I think we're getting way far afield, but that's fine. Go ahead and answer.
Nancy has Crohn's, and in Canada, it was a regular occurrence for us to take her to the hospital, to the emergency room when she's having a Crohn's attack, and wait in the emergency room for hours on end.
What emergency room in Canada?
Whatever the closest emergency room was.
Where did you live when Nancy lived in Canada?
We lived in downtown Calgary.
Do you recall your address?
I believe it was an apartment building on 8th Avenue.
8th Avenue, downtown
Yes,
Calgary?
8th Avenue Southwest, I believe.
During what period of time was that?
Approximately 9 years ago.
Do you know when you moved away from Calgary?
We moved January the 1st, 2000. 2001, I should say.
Okay. So tell me about the times that you took Nancy to the hospital in Calgary.
During a Crohn's attack, there's not much we can do, but we went there, sat in the waiting room, usually had to wait for hours, and wait for someone to find a bed for her, and usually she spent a couple hours there.
What hospital would that have been?
It would be a hospital, to the best of my knowledge, just the one south of the University of Calgary. I don't remember the name.
And how many times?
It was a regular occurrence. It was...
Monthly, weekly?
I would say it was more than monthly.
Have you taken Nancy to the hospital any time in North Carolina?
I would imagine that I've taken her to the hospital, yes.
Which hospital?
The hospital we most likely went to would be Wake Med.
When would that have been?
I would say it's had to be more than 3 years ago. I don't remember the exact day. I don't remember even what the incident was, but since we've been in Carrie, her Crohn's has been much better. She's got much better medical attention, and we haven't had to go to the hospital too often for her Crohn's.
Did you ever take her to the hospital for any of the miscarriages?
Objection. Asked and answered. Move on.
You're going to let him answer the question?
He's already answered the question about 3 times.
Which hospital did you take Nancy to for her miscarriages?
I believe Wake Med, which is just up the street from our home.
Was that during a period in which you had 1 car or 2 cars?
Given that it was 5 years ago, I do not recall. We've had at least 2 incidents where we've only had 1 car in the family.
Did you leave work to pick her up? Or?
Given that it was 5 years ago, I do not recall what happened, whether it was at home, whether it was at work, whether it was working from home that day. Whether it was the weekend, I have no idea.
Are the 5 miscarriages that she had prior to Bella's birth the only miscarriages that she's had?
To the best of my knowledge, yes. I don't believe we had a miscarriage when we were trying for Katie.
Was Bella's birth planned?
Yes.
Was Katie's birth planned?
Yes.
Other than the marriage counselor, her OB, what other doctors did Nancy see in Cary?
Other than her OB, she had a Crohn's doctor that she saw.
Who was that?
I don't remember the name of the practice. She hasn't had to see him. She's only had to see him, I believe, once recently. And
When you say recently, what is that?
this year, 2008. Her Crohn's started acting up again earlier this year.
Did she see the same physician for Crohn's during the period that you lived in Cary, for the 8 years that you lived here?
Yes, she was quite happy with the doctor.
Did you ever take her to that doctor?
Yes.
Where is the doctor's office located?
I accompanied her a few times when she was getting checked.